Programming for CrossFit or any hybrid sport is hard. I see a lot of coaches but also affiliates just randomly picking some workouts they found online or on Instagram and just throwing them into their programming. This is not the way. In this video, I will share 3 evidence-based approaches that you can use as a backbone to level up your programming skills. This is part 1 of a 4-part video series where I will discuss strategies, technologies, but also psychology to optimize athlete performance. So if you are a coach, an affiliate owner, a manager or an athlete, you are not going to want to miss this video. Alright, let's go straight into it. Hi everyone, I'm Gomar. I'm a senior scientist at ETH Zurich, and next to doing experiments related to exercise and nutrition, I've also been doing CrossFit for the last decade. I've been coaching but also programming for hundreds of people, and now I want to share some of that knowledge back to you guys. So if you want to program training plans for a specific sport, you obviously first have to understand the sport very well. And if we think about CrossFit, we think about high intensity exercise, standing or basing itself on 2 different pillars. First of all, various time domains, from very short movements such as a 1RM snatch to longer workouts, 12 to 15 to 30 or even longer workouts. And then also across various exercise modalities, mostly using movements from gymnastics, conditioning and weightlifting. You have to put all those movements and all those time domains together to design an efficient programming plan. And that's why programming for CrossFit is so difficult in my opinion. If you think about a CrossFit athlete, male or female, the one who produces the most amount of power across every time domain will probably win the workout, given their movement efficiency is similar. Right? So think about or look at these 2 graphs and tell me in the comment sections which athlete has the highest chance of actually winning the workout. Good. So if you think about programming, it is, in my opinion, always important to look at purpose of the workout, purpose of the session, so of the individual session, progressive overload over time, in conditioning but also in strength, and then try to limit the interference between different movements as much as possible. So first of all, purpose. Every, let's say, training session should have a specific purpose. You don't, what I see a lot in programming is just adding different purposes together. So skill and conditioning is wrapped up in one training session. That is usually not the way to go. So you have different purposes, for example, skill, strength, conditioning, potentially also weightlifting and CrossFit, right? So you can add those all together. And in my opinion, some work better together than others. So if your major focus is, for example, skill work, for example, handstand push-ups or something on your hands upside down, you can add also some strength to it. All right. On the other hand, conditioning, for example, something like an interval training, you can also combine this with more, let's say, CrossFit style workout, 10 to 12 minute workouts. Good. So to give you a little bit of an example, a good, let's say, workout, a 60-minute session that involves skill and strength would be, let's say, handstand walks together with presses. And then if you still have some time or you have a little bit longer session, you can also do some pulling movements into an AMRAP CrossFit style. Good. And then you also have, for example, conditioning together with CrossFit would be an EMOMs or every minute on the minute for 6 minutes. So you have a time window of 6 minutes. You repeat that 5 times. And then, for example, do in that 5 times a given amount of work where you also have some rest. But that would be it. You don't want to add, for example, 2RM or 3RM back squat to this session. And that, as I said, is something I see a lot. As a coach, pick a specific purpose of your training session and focus on that purpose. You can add a little bit of strength or other purposes together, but focus on one important purpose. Second, we're talking about progressive overload. So what do I mean with progressive overload is that the load on the body is progressively increased over time, with also some deload or some decreases over time. So you see here the curve of training load. I will get into a second on how I define training load that you can also use in your training program. So you see here, nice, it goes up after a couple of weeks. It goes down for a week to have a little bit of a rest, let's say an active rest, and then it goes up again, and for example also a deload week before a competition. That is something you can think about as let's say progressive overload. And how do I define the load on the body? Because it's kind of an abstract concept, right? So I look at it as training impulse, or TRIMP. This is also something that is evidence-based, and other people mostly in the training research use this. What is TRIMP? It is training time times the rate of perceived exertion on a scale from 1 to 10 or 6 to 20. That doesn't really matter too much. For example, you do a 35-minute workout at an RPE of 7 out of 10, so moderately to heavy work, right? That would be a TRIMP of 245. That's it. And how you can use that, for example, this is a screenshot from a programming that I did during or in preparation for the Open. You can still find this in the link below. If you're interested in such programming, you can still buy it from our website. It's only $30 for a 12-week programming, so I think it's quite a good value. And what we do here, we have the first 2 weeks a slight increase in TRIMP, and you can see here strength TRIMP, weightlifting, endurance, and CrossFit. It all added together. So mostly we did CrossFit and then also some other modalities. Then there's a competition week, so that's a 0 TRIMP, then a deload week, and then it goes up again, down and up. So you can actually play then with the training load within your bigger cycle. And that's why I think TRIMP, so the RPE times the time you train on that session, is a very good measure, or it is one of the better ones we have to define the training load on the body. Good, so how do you achieve progressive overload? You can say, yeah, that's nice, Gomar, a progressive overload, but how do you achieve that? In the strength, you can, for example, increase in weight, but you can also, and that's something that people forget a lot, increase in reps. All right, so a 10 times or 5 times 10 back squat, that's fine. You can increase the weight over time. You can always add 2, 3, 4, 5 kilos more, but you can also just increase the reps, same amount of weight, but just 11 reps, and then the next week 12 reps at the same weight. Good. Or obviously you can do some kind of combination where you have a progressive overload of reps as well as weight. But you have to watch out with that, obviously, because you don't want to jump too high. Then also in conditioning or in CrossFit style, you have the same. You can increase the volume, so the time you train. Instead of 70 minutes or 60 minutes, you go for 90-minute sessions. That's 1 or 2 workouts instead of 1 workout. But you can also increase the intensity, so you have a higher RPE in your sessions. All right, so you can play a little bit with that. Just a story from my part, what I see in Willie George, for example, what he does EMOMs with a given set of work. For example, I'm just saying something, 5 burpees and 5 snatches in that EMOM for 10 minutes. And then the next week, he does the same movements, but he just adds 1 more rep in each minute. So that's why he can actually increase the amount of power he has to produce within that minute, and he progressively overloads his body. So that's also a good way in CrossFit style to increase progressive overload. And then we have interference. I made a video about how to limit the interference effect in hybrid sports. It's popping up above. It's also linked in the description and in the comments. I think it's a very good video to let you understand better how interference actually works. I will go into this a little bit here, but if you want to know more about it, just watch that video. This is how it usually looks. So if you do a single mode of training in an untrained person, or you combine both, for example, CrossFit style, strength and endurance, then in an untrained person, it doesn't matter. Both will increase strength and endurance at the same time, because everything you throw at an untrained person, maybe you know it from your own experience as a coach, he or she likely will get better in both modalities. But then when you have a moderately trained and certainly an elite athlete, you want to specify your training. For example, if you want to build a bodybuilder, he or she can do a little bit of cardio, but you don't want to spend 5, 6, 7 hours a week doing cardio or endurance training for that person. But the problem with CrossFit is you have to be good at both. And that's what I mean here, is that for a CrossFit athlete, it is impossible to specify in all different time domains, because there's just not enough training time per week to specify in a certain modality. So the inability to train the amount of volume that is needed to make it to the top level in one extreme, for example, endurance like a cyclist, or strength, is just not reachable for a CrossFitter. For example, a CrossFitter should do whatever, 6 to 10 hours of conditioning, 6 to 10 hours of mixed training, like CrossFit style training, and then also he does or she does 6 to 10 hours of strength. If you add that all together, that's a full training week. So what can you then do as a CrossFit athlete to limit this interference between strength and endurance? In my opinion, there's a couple of papers also included in the video I just talked about, is to show that if you can separate opposite exercise modalities by at least 6 hours, you are probably having the highest chances of decreasing the interference effect. So for example, again, if you want to do skill and strength in, let's say, in the morning, and then do your conditioning and CrossFit style workouts in the evening or the next day, if you are training just once a day. So still, all these concepts remain a little bit abstract if I don't show you a practical application on how I implement this into my own programming. So I will show you now. So what you see here is a Google spreadsheet with all the different days, the content, the target RPE, and so on. I will get to that in a second. So this is a training program for, let's say, moderately trained to advanced athletes. Elite athletes can do 2 sessions a day, and that is not included here, but the principles are the same. So Monday would be a rest day. Then they would do a combination of CrossFit and conditioning style, so I think that works well together. And then the next day, they would do strength and skill work, gymnastics work. Good. Then again, a rest day, so 2 trainings day, a rest day. Friday would be mostly strength and a short workout. So if you focus on strength, you can still do obviously a workout, but don't make that workout 30 minutes. That doesn't make any sense. Again, that's a common mistake that many people make. Focus on one purpose. Saturday would be zone 2 training, so more conditioning. Don't add any strength training or heavy CrossFit style workouts to your zone 2 training day. Let the zone 2 do the work and don't add anything else there. And Sunday would be a weightlifting day with a short workout again. Good. And then what is nice, I think, about this whole training program is that I also can provide the target RPE, so how hard the training should feel for the athlete, the type, so endurance, CrossFit, strength, and how long the session or the set should actually take, 25 minutes and so on. And in that case, you can obviously assess your training impulse, so your training load on the body, and you can have a nice weekly overview. For example, in this case, it was, let's say, an even balance between CrossFit, endurance, and strength. Also have some accessory and less gymnastics and weightlifting. So in that way, you as a coach can exactly know how much of each modality the athlete has done. And that's super important, I think, to attack the weaknesses for an individual program, or to know where you are actually focusing on your affiliate programming. For example, every session should have one specific purpose. For example, skill, strength, conditioning, weightlifting. You can obviously fill out that purpose according to your personal preferences, but go for one purpose and try to avoid too much interference. For strength and conditioning, aim for progressive overload by manipulating both the volume as well as the intensity of the workouts of the reps. And then limit the interference by separating opposite training modalities by at least 6 hours or 24 hours if you train once every day during the week. But if you're an elite athlete, try to separate by 6 hours. And importantly, the purpose of the training obviously should also not interfere too much, meaning that if you do a heavy conditioning workout, don't add too much strength on that same session. That doesn't make too much sense. It's better to wait 6 hours or do that the next day. Good, that was it from my part. Hope you liked this video. If you did, give it a quick like. It takes 1 second of your time, and also subscribe to the channel. If you want to learn more about the interference effect and how it affects hybrid training, just click here.